You're dedicated to Eustachio. That's let's just make that clear. You're not no to Eustachio. No, and I you know what I'm not going to hold that against you. So you can. Why would I be upset by that? hmm Lost of space and time. I'll own up and say that my schedule. At least I'm working in the industry we're talking about, broadcast, so I'll take that. I work in broadcast, so I'll take that as a victory. But yeah, we'll say I'm the reason we lost our episode about Uruguay and Qatar and a few other things and a few Twitter people we called out we're not happy with. Maybe that's for the best. That episode never. Yeah, they'll never get to hear our hot takes about certain people in the Canadian soccer Twitterverse. But maybe we'll get there naturally today because I'm not going to force that issue too much. But just like the episode title is "We Back, We Are Back." So let's get into it. Let's get to business. You got it. Yeah, yeah, go for it. That's okay. I mean that whole lineup sounds like a top 10 MLS lineup. I really enjoy all those names and that's definitely fighting for a playoff spot, if not guaranteed a playoff spot around July if this was an MLS team specifically. Yeah, I like that lineup. I'm not jokes aside. These are the right guys we want. You know, trying out for the team, like warming up for the team, however you want to sort of look at it with these guys playing this game. That roster, I mean, it's not as sexy as maybe some MLS base or non European based squads, but I like it. Oh, absolutely. That was a disastrous camp to begin with in the first place. So sure did. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. You know what? Thomas Asal, I remember watching him in that first sort of COVID condensed season when they were playing. They weren't, the MLS wasn't really sure what to do. I remember they were doing that, like, okay, let's just let all the Canadian teams play each other 19 different times, and then we'll decide what, then we'll move, the Canadian teams down to the States. Anyway, Hasal at the MLS's back, obviously really impressed, and then he kept that going throughout the games, even though the Whitecaps were not good. that year. He still impressed every game. I still think he gave him a chance. Then he faced some. You can correct me. He faced some pretty big injury problems the following season. Never really recovered, and then his first full MLS season after Crepeau left, and they just sort of like Hassal's our keeper, and everyone's like, "Are you sure you don't want to get?" You know, they did in was it Cody Copper? He was like kind of like the veteran wily backup, which I always this is when we get to our starting. I'll deviate when we get to our starting 11s. I don't dream very big, and so when I was younger, I used to dream of being a backup goalie, and so Cody Copper is the kind of goalie I aspired to be. The guy like, yeah, I'll play 2 games a season. Why not? I'll start a couple of games. Yeah, I'm here for moral support. I'm a glue guy. Anyway, this full season for Asal, I think he had moments of like, okay, I can see everyone can see what's there. We get to the decision. He's still not ready to be an MLS starter, but I think he will. He has the ceiling. This isn't being a homer. This isn't being a homer for Vancouver or Canada. I think he has the ceiling to be a top 5 keeper in the MLS based on what he can do and what he can turn that into better. He can get maybe a little bit bigger. He's got to grow up a little bit more. I like that he's playing. I hope he gets minutes in this camp. I don't think he will, but I like that they're bringing him out to like, hey, like let's Crepeau's out. I think Sinclair is my mind is the default number 2. I think Pantemis is the default number 3 in this situation now. But it's why not bring us all out and see what we can do, and if we can just cap him or whatever, great. I don't care, but I think he's a good goalie. I don't think he's ready for anything major responsibilities, but that's fine. He's super young. I want to know, not to get into too much MLS Whitecaps stuff, but I want to know who Russell Tiber is friends with in Vancouver, like, or who does he know to constantly get starting minutes, and who does he know to? I know he's a bad player. I think he's still super serviceable, but I want to know like what dirt does he have on someone to constantly get in the starting 11? Because he'd be a great super sub. He put it. Yeah, I don't. And there was a period too where he played regularly for Canadian men's national team up until like 2018. He was playing, and I think he was still serviceable then. I think he's still serviceable now, but he's not a starting player. He's a guy you bring in the 65th, 75th minute to help finish out a game if you're looking to get a tie or hold on to a win. You don't start him. All right, that's enough Whitecaps talk for today, folks. Until we get to Lucas Cavallini. Until we get to Cavallini. Old head stomper himself. I love him. Well, mostly goes up and then comes stomping down on your head. So I guess so. Yeah. So I don't know. That wasn't a suspension. It was a red. It wasn't a suspension, but that's a different story altogether. Yeah. No, there you go. See, let's talk some Cavallini, baby. Yeah. No, he's still got a lot to add. He's still got a lot to add to Canada. Um, I just don't know. He has to get. That's weird. But it's weird because he's still a good player, but he has to get better. I don't know what to say. Maybe just has had to, but I feel like he's just from a Canadian standpoint speaking, he hasn't had as, and maybe that's good because he's not sticking out as much as he used to. That we have other players that do the same, but he's just not what he used to be, and that's maybe a too generic a term, but he's not really not adding anything to the Canadian roster anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, I wish I had more in depth to add to the attack. It's kind of one of those things where it's like this is such a we're talking specifically for the MLS based roster. Uh, I'm trying to like there's only so much we can speculate and talk about with these guys because it's such a mismatch of players and like they have so much to prove. I like this again. This is if this was an MLS based team, I like our attack. Um, I like our lineup. I like our attack. It leaves a little bit more to be desired, I think, in terms of creativity. It seems like a lot. It's based on a lot of speed, a lot of things like that. Not with Cavallini. No speed on Cavallini's end. Um, yeah, I'm generic, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like let's wait and see what happens. I know it's a boring answer, but like we kind of have to wait and see what happens on these guys.
Yeah, I guess I'll add anything. Schaffelberg has been, by all accounts, pretty good once he got loaned to Nashville. It's difficult what happened to him in Toronto. Kind of got turned into a fullback that no one wanted him to be. Um, then once the Italians came, he wasn't going to get any playing time.
The Italians, not
Um,
all their fault.
no, it's the Italians. The Italians did it, James. Um, but yeah, like he's a very direct player and very pacey. I think he's a good option on the wing. He's probably going to get a start or a striker. I don't know. Jaden Nelson has been moved more to the central midfield with Toronto this year, where he's, from what I've heard, had a better season than seasons past. He's never really looked great on the wing. Very, he's kind of like Buchanan-esque in getting around people, and then once it comes to playing the final ball, he's just sort of clueless. So I kind of lean towards. I know Akinola has had like an equally terrible year.
Well,
Uh,
Hasn't been the same, and rightfully so, since that injury against the U.S. team. So I actually, for some reason, completely forgot he existed until I saw their roster for this first game against Bahrain, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about him. He would be really valuable if he was 100% ready to go, and maybe not for this World Cup, but for future competitions, windows, just in the future of the program. I completely forgot he existed. So this shows how much I know about anything. But seeing him on there was great. I hope he like is back fit 100% and does something, and then he somehow sneaks his way onto a Nations League competition.
yeah, like Kava and Io, it's like a very physically imposing front two. Like they're both guys who will bully center backs. That's for sure.
And that's I
Uh,
think not to sort of deviate too much again. Like I mean, you know what? I digress. I don't care if I digress. I digress. I think we could have used that more against Uruguay. Yeah, just almost like Qatar, but we did bully them a bit. Uruguay bullied us, so if we could have gave it back to them a little bit, that would have been a nice turnaround. May not have helped that much, but it would have been nice to see.
I mean, ideally, you still want guys who are scoring.
Yes, yes.
um, I'll take that every time. Um, yeah, I guess I don't know if you have any thoughts on guys you would have liked to see. I don't know how much you're keep. I know MLS is kind of boring to keep track
No,
of, but I do it.
regardless of what level it is, I always want to keep track of players who are associated with Canada and who are wearing the Canadian jersey. I just again like I'm not a very exciting person. I don't live a very exciting life. So when I saw the roster, I was like, oh yeah, all those names look good. I'm excited to see these people. I'm gonna move on because really for me it's let's
It's not
see
a
it
big deal.
let's see how they perform in this one game because only a couple of those guys at best we know who's gonna be taken from that roster onto the main Canadian roster. Um, and it's just one game, so even if someone had a bad game like Schaffelberg or even say Hassal or whomever is off that game or isn't noticeable, it's like okay, well it's one game. Are they playing in Qatar or Saudi Arabia? I can't remember. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
They're playing in Bahrain.
Oh, they're playing in Bahrain. Okay, great. So it's they're playing somewhere that they never played before. Whatever. I'm happy just to see more. These are the kind of games, regardless of the roster size, and we criticize that Iceland roster, rightfully so. But these are the kind of games that Canada hasn't been doing for years. They haven't just been doing, regardless of World Cup or not. Like they just weren't scheduling friendlies. They weren't doing tune-up matches. They weren't doing any of that. And so I'm just happy to see them actually do a game. Again, this is for bigger picture of the World Cup, and they should be doing this. But okay, great. I'm just happy they put together a roster. They're going to play a game somewhere they've never played before. This still counts towards FIFA points, even though it means really nothing at the end of the day. But these are still experienced games, and I'm just happy to see that. And I'll get up bright and early West Coast time for both that and Japan, and hopefully see some sort of result.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's a little anticlimactic to you're right before World Cup, and we're talking about like the virtues of our domestic squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I guess if I would make any changes, I would have liked to see Mo Farsi. I think he's the. If you're not familiar, he's the did pretty well with Cavalry in CPL, and he's gotten a chance with Columbus this year in MLS, mostly in Next Pro, but towards the end of the season he made some appearances, and I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought he would have provided some
I think
good
there was
fullback cover.
a pretty vocal, maybe minority, but there was a pretty vocal crowd of people who wanted more current or ex CPL players maybe on this roster just to give.
That was the whole thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, okay. Well, we're there. So, but my more comment was like, I get the maybe the criticism or the outcry for more current or ex CPL players, but there's still so much quality right above them to add to this roster that could make the impression to maybe crack that 26-man roster in Qatar. So I understand the desire, and maybe they can do the same thing like I just said. Like, we criticized that camp when they played 2 games against Barbados and 1 against Iceland. That was a stupid camp that they had. They didn't have a great roster, all behind closed doors, yada, yada, yada. But if they can do more camps like that in the future, yeah, add some Mo Farsis, add a few other players, like, from, top players from Forge and from Ottawa and things like that. Like, add those guys who are just fringe sort of CPL, too good for CPL, not quite MLS caliber, but maybe they are MLS caliber. Yeah, smaller camps, sure, but not for this. No matter who your opponent is, 2 games before the World Cup, even if it is a tune-up tryout match. No, unfortunately, they're just not going to make the cut.
yeah. My almost hot take of this like Bahrain window, you don't have to play the graphic. It's not quite a hot take, but
Yeah.
is like I don't think we're at the place where we want like CPL players even in our domestic camps. Like if we've got a solid MLS contingent, I don't see why we would like lower ourselves down like that. Like as much as I respect the CPL, I don't think it's there, and I don't think it's really. I'm not sure if it's ever going to be at the point where we want players like currently in CPL, like regularly in our camps. Like ideally, the best players are going to be moving off. As little as people want to hear it, they're going to be shuttling to like Canadian MLS teams, and also Europe. Um, and it's not like there aren't former. The thing is, like there are former CPLers in this camp. Like Joel Waterman is going to be there, ideally competing for a World Cup spot. And to my surprise, Lucas McNaughton is there, and I kind of like him.
But they're not the CPL players I want playing.
Yeah,
game.
exactly.
They're not the CPL
like,
players I want a part of this. And you know what? Maybe you got a point there, random Reddit user, but not for this camp. I'm sorry.
I can source the arguments for like Sean Rea, or I don't even know how to say it. He had a good year for Valor, from what I saw. Marco Bustos has been trialing with TFC. He's wasn't quite as good this year, but he's historically, 3 years historically, been one of the best players in the CPL, and he was, if I remembering right, he got called to like the very first expanded camp heading into the World Cup qualifiers. But besides that, yeah, like no, I don't want CPLers in our camps. Like the best ones can rise to the top, but otherwise, no thanks.
Absolutely.
Um, all right, I think I have a few more things just to say. I feel like I'm the only one that took 10 minutes to do research on Bahrain.
Please,
Um,
please enlighten me. I would love it. I did a quick Wikipedia. I made sure to pronounce it correctly. If Bahrain has some quality players, I'd love to see in that match show their quality as well. So everyone should appreciate someone like you for doing some more research.
all right, so according to Wikipedia, Bahrain, officially the Kingdom of Bahrain, is not. No.
No, yeah,
Um,
okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, it's like a tiny country next to Qatar. They have a border with Qatar. Um, they're kind of Qatar light in a lot of ways, political and sporting. Um, but basically, from what I can tell, their domestic league is pretty weak, and that's where basically all their players are from. They haven't had a team in AFC Champions League since 2004, and most recently, like their best team, where like a lot of their players are called from, they just got shellacked by like a team from Oman, 4-0. Uh, but something I don't really get, despite this, they do like decently well on the international stage. I don't really get how they do it because their league isn't good. But like last year, they beat Curacao 4-0. They beat Haiti 6-1. Um, they're managing.
What was the Curacao and Haiti lineup though? Those
They
games.
weren't A teams, but they were players from like professional leagues in
Okay,
Europe. Like
okay,
these weren't.
okay.
And US Haiti has a lot of USL players and such. It was more of an 18 for Curacao, I think. But like I feel like they don't have any right to be like a top 100 team in the world, as low a bar as that is. But they kind of do it. They've had some impressive results this year. They beat DR Congo, who came very close to the World Cup. Um, so yeah, like they're a bit of a I don't quite know what to expect from
I
them.
think I think the region they play in too of qualification is a lot stronger than people give it credit for as well. I think even though
Really?
I don't follow it that closely, but I follow it closer more than you'd think, and I think it's a pretty strong region, at least when it comes to anyone can kind of walk out of a group as a winner for at a certain stage, and I think that helps maybe sort of mentality. They don't care who they play. Again, it's 100% conjecture. I'm just making it up on the spot, but based on the regions they play in, and I didn't even know they had this competition, so that's actually more impressive. But I was just basing it on their qualification, their cups. I think that region's stronger than people give it credit for. So yeah, can't, even with this roster, Canada should still pull out a positive result in my mind, just because based on the individual talent, not to crap on any Bahrain players, but like MLS is a better league than currently whatever these, most of these players play in. Hey, for our two viewers, like maybe I'm wrong, but I still think that it's still a strong region, and I think what helps that region is a lot. There is parity in that region to a certain. You kind of know who the final four are always going to be, but in a Asia Cup
Yeah.
or a few of those other cups they play in, it's pretty open, and I think that helps a lot of teams. I think even the team of Qatar, even though Canada did what Uruguay did to Canada, where Canada sat back against Qatar, and Qatar didn't really have much of an answer, and Qatar's not that strong of a team in general, but there's even in the Gold Cup they put up some surprising performances. That semifinal against the U.S., I think at a certain point could have probably gone either way. So yeah, I think teams in these regions, Middle East, Asia, and beyond, are a lot stronger than we think. Not the giant killers, but I think they will provide some sort of a test.
Their best player, I think, is Abdullah Yusuf, who he he's like the only Bahraini who got to play in Europe. He was with Slavia Prague for like a year. He didn't really
It's a good
cut it
team. That's a
there.
good. I mean, that's still a good team to make at least like a roster, right? Like,
Yeah, he's kind of weird. Like he was on a lower Czech team. He got purchased by Slavia, and he didn't really cut it there. And now he's in Indonesia. Um, but he had it's not you see like a lot of those Middle Eastern players get like a trial with like a really good team, and then they never really make an appearance. So credit to him for like spending a year there. That's not easy to do. So yeah, I agree. I think they did just lose to Panama 2-0. I think that was the last game they played. So it's probably a game we should win uh, fairly easily.
I mean,
Like
we've
even with
lost to
the
Panama
domestic
too, so
squad.
it doesn't really say much.
Yeah, we didn't lose them at home though.
Okay, all
Um,
right, but we still lost to them.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. But we should beat them. I think it'll be closer than people think. Like maybe one or it could be a 1 or 2 goal win. Um, yes, I think that's all anyone wants to hear about Bahrain. So let us move on. I don't think there's much to say about Japan in general. I don't think there's much to say that wouldn't also be true about the World Cup.
Yeah,
Um,
I think just to add, I think it's a 5:30 a.m. kickoff here on the West Coast.
that's
So do I want to pay for 2 games to watch on one soccer that may or may not have technical difficulties? Our new banner for Twitter, by the way, since that Uruguay game has been the one soccer
I've
technical
noticed.
difficulties. Um,
I'd like to everyone know he runs a Twitter account.
Not all the time. But
What?
uh, yeah, I do. I want to spend money to get up early and watch Canada play Bahrain and Japan. Yeah, probably. And I hope the game against Japan. I feel like both teams, especially I don't know how much we're gonna talk about injuries for Canada, but I think both teams are gonna want to play hard, but also at a certain point probably to sort of switch off and go, okay, well we got important games after this, so let's around the 75th minute, let's just start sort of backing off and see how it feels. So it's one of those things where I happy for the game and I hope it's a good game. I hope Canada gets. It would be huge for Canada to get a win against a team like Japan, even though I think some people may expect us to beat Japan. That's not always. I don't think that's a guarantee. I still think even at their worst, Japan's still a very strong side. Um, Even when they underperform, like I think there's people sharing highlights of when Australia beat Japan back in it was at 2010. Um, People were very excited about that. Anyway, so I hope the game is good, but
Do better than the U.S. did.
do better than use it, and let's not get frustrated if it is a poor result against Japan because Canada. I'm a big proprietor. A lot of my hot takes for a lot of our shows were Canada needs to lose for the right reasons, and if Japan beats Canada in this game, people can't freak out like they did against Uruguay because maybe not in the rankings right now. Maybe they are. I haven't checked recently what Japan is. Japan's still a strong squad, and if they beat us, that's okay. It's also a tune-up game, so that's okay too, everybody. Like, that's the point of these games. Whew. That feels good
Speaking of
sometimes.
which, we're getting into the what is it like our fourth World Cup segment. Um, so we both is it time to share our 11s? We both made.
Okay,
Um,
I'll show my 11 first, just because. Yes, we both made our projected. Now I prefaced this before we started that I don't always dream super big, and I mentioned it too when I was talking about how I dreamed about being a backup goalie. So I don't dream super big in my best
like the
situations.
sorry a wimpy kid
Yeah,
dream.
I'm always so when we talked about our starting 11s, I lean more towards what's a more likely starting 11, and your starting 11 in my mind is more that's what you want to
I
see.
feel like mine's
I
reasonable.
think it's reasonable too. I saw it like, oh yeah, that's much better than mine. So I'll put mine up first, covering my face in shame.
All right, let's see
Okay,
it.
I'll put mine up right now.
It's too small, James. I
Too
can't.
small for your end, but I'll read it out. I'll read it out. Okay, here, I can also make it bigger for the audience as well too. I'll put it right in the middle.
Put it over my face. Put it over my.
Okay, I'll put it over your face, and then I'll put yours over my face. Okay, here we go. I'll make it bigger. There we go. All right. So I got David and Laren at the top. Davies on the left wing. Hutchinson center mid. Sorio center mid. Stacchio center mid. Buchanan right wing. Miller, Vittoria, and Johnston as our back three, and Borjan as our starting. I think that's a very. I'm sure we've seen that lineup at some point. That's a very conservative, safe bet on my end for a starting 11. I think
Okay, I thought ours were gonna be like way different, but they're like
ours are pretty close,
there's one difference.
and
Yeah.
just like a different positions. So I think mine is very conservative, very much like this is probably what Herdman would do for a game tomorrow. I felt bad because I like Luria. I like Atakube a lot more, but I was like, okay, for this lineup, this seems a bit. If I was going to do maybe a back four, Atakube would be back there for sure. I almost thought about taking out Miller completely and putting Atakube right there, just because he's proven how many steps he's taken forward as a player to just sort of nudge out Miller. So let me take out my 11. And I'll just drop in
There's like a key difference when you get to mine.
Oh yeah,
We'll
here, let
talk
me take
about.
it. Let me take mine out, and I'll put in your starting. I'll also do the same thing. I'll put it big and put it over my face.
There it is.
So I can see everything. I
So
can see it. Let me put it in. There we go. There's your starting.
there you
Your starting
go.
11 is a lot more fun than mine, though.
I don't think they're basically the same, James. So the only difference is I've gone with a back four. I've gone with a 4-3-3, and I've switched out Laren for Adekubi. This has pained me a lot. I'm sure you can tell I put a lot of thought into this, like every single day. And to me, I really like Kyle Laren, as I made that pretty clear. But um, I think this front three is just too fun not to play.
Well,
Uh,
it's everything we want Canada to be. It's fast. It's deadly. Um, not to bring another hockey term into it, but there's a lot of back check in those three guys up front. You know, Davies and Buchanan can give all theirs if there's a bad turnover or a bad loss of possession. You know they're gonna get back and help out. Laren, frustratingly so, and to his defense, I often jump to his defense and say, you know, you know, Laren is the type of player who just finds he's a frustrating offensive player who finds a space, and just because he's not doing something doesn't mean he's not trying to find open area. But I like your 11 a lot more than mine because that's exciting. It's got a lot of speed.
I think there's like a good. I think there's like a real argument to be had there. Like, arguably yours gets more talent on the field. Like, you might say Laren is going to affect the game more than Adekubi. Um, I guess the reason why I've kind of shifted to a front three is because I really think Tajon Buchanan is capable of doing like incredible things when he's closer to the net, when he starts close to the net. As a wingback, whether with the national team or in Belgium, it just doesn't feel like he has that same effect. His way of getting around people is very based around like one or two touches. It's not based around these long runs from deep, like Davies. And I just think we lose that if Buchanan is playing as a wingback, and to an extent when Davies is playing as a wingback. I think I really love a midfield three. I think we've looked good nearly every time we've played one. Um, I've been a bit concerned. There's reason for concern with Atiba and Osorio's fitness. Osorio is still very much a question, but I'm really happy to say that Atiba is playing right now as we speak in the Turkish Cup for the first time in months, like a really, really long time.
Yeah, I
Um,
think you're right. Both those choices are idealistic views of the starting 11, Osorio and Hutchinson. Um, Even if
yeah,
Hutchinson finds himself in the role of 75th minute sub, 65th minute sub, I don't care. I think both of us in a lot of Canadians just want him in the lineup. So when we look at a starting 11, we're like, oh, Hutchinson has to be there. I don't think that's reality, and you've touched on it with his fitness and his injuries, and excuse me, and a few other things. The same with Osorio, fitness, injuries, things like that.
it's a good sign though that he's playing today.
Yeah,
Like, it didn't look like he was getting any games before the World Cup.
yeah, because
Um,
we're less than 2 weeks away from our first match in the World Cup. I believe at
that
20.
actually seems like a good thing for discussion. Like, we have kind of a choice between. Herman has the same choice. I mean, he has training footage to view, and we don't. But like, he has this choice between Osorio, Atiba, maybe ideally like the best talent, and then like Piet and Kone, who are in better fitness most likely. Um, and like, I'm not sure which way to go. Like, I could be persuaded either way.
Yeah, I mean it's a good problem to have in a sense of just like okay, like we know what our first choice would be, but we have a lot of other players who could fill in that role too. Um, I think again, just in sort of the theme of my day of not being super exciting, I think we just have to kind of wait and see what. No, November 13th we get the not roster and official roster announcement. It's only 4 days from now, and we sort of see how these games go for their league, sort of domestic teams, and then we sort of go and see how this game against Bahrain goes. Then we go see this game. It's all a bunch of like we kind of have to. We're in that stage now where it's so close, but we still have so much to have to wait and see how things play out. Um, I mean, on the subject of Kone, never looks out of place. In fact, he's getting better. So if he took someone's starting role on game one, I'm not upset by that. I think people will be upset with Piet had a starting game. Like, I think he plays his role great. I think he's super effective. For some reason, I think another small subset of people don't really like Piet starting games or being a part of a starting 11. Um, but I think Kone, if his name is there, I would be all for it.
I think it gets a lot more justifiable. To be honest, I think every game we should be playing in a midfield three. I don't think we did against Uruguay, and I did not love it. Um, and yeah, like I think Piet is a lot better, bulldogging into anyone he's told to when he has two other midfielders to cover for him. I think Osorio has more freedom to launch forward if he's in full fitness. Um, I think it's a given that Atiba needs two other people to cover for him at this point. I think he can be still a very solid holding six, which is what it looks like he's been today. And with um, Eustachio maybe.
Do you
Could
like
be
him?
like
Are you a fan of that player?
a little bit. He's on the back of this jersey. But I think that with the way he's been playing with Porto, he's also going to be bombing forward. Um, so I think it should be a midfield three, and it's just a question of who's in the best fitness and who looks the best in training, which I
Yeah,
guess is what
just
every decision is. I don't.
unfortunately, we have to go with in the best form right now, and and everyone, not to talk too much about injuries, but like with the whole Davy situation, if he doesn't look like he's ready for the
Yeah,
first game, he shouldn't start. He should come on. Like, I think they do the same thing against Japan. I think the plan is to.
I don't think he's going to play at all against Japan.
I don't think so either. I think they won't say that, and I think they'll maintain. Oh, he'll come on late if he does, so he'll get like 15 minutes of hard running to give his legs this. But I don't think. Just save him. He's not going to go out of shape in the next 2 weeks, so just let him rest. I'm not a bodybuilder.
That was so scary, man.
I didn't even see it happen live, and thank God. I'm just saying I'm not a bodybuilder or a perfect athlete, but I found in life the rest is way more valuable than continuous training. And I know that's obvious, but there's a lot of people who don't understand that. People who train 6 days a week, 7 days a week, people who do all stuff is like resting. Like rest is huge for recovery and just like overall growth of your body. And let him sit on a couch for 2 weeks and stretch. Just like, okay, yeah, get your stretches in today, Alfonso. We'll see you in Qatar. Like, just see you later. No need to get out there. No need to go for a run around the block. No need. If we could wrap you in bubble wrap and just put you on a couch for 2 weeks, and we'll come check on you when it's time to go fly to Qatar. If he played 10 minutes against Japan, I don't think anyone in this country would be easy watching that, because he would go, knowing him, he'd go 110 for every ball. He would be just flying around, trying to fly around guys, do everything too much, try and deke through three guys like he did at Uruguay. He would just try and do too much to prove something, and then that's where you get injured. So you're right. He's not going to play. He shouldn't play, but they won't say that because One Soccer wants to get some money.
Wheeler was kind of saying it, but Wheeler's Wheeler.
Wheeler's a player.
Right. Maybe we should touch on just a bit of injuries. The Crepeau one was really unfortunate. I guess the thing going around is he sacrificed his World Cup to win the MLS Cup, which just sounds sad when you say it.
Well, he didn't do it on purpose. Let's just get that clear. He didn't try and break his leg.
I don't know. I saw it in his eyes before.
Well, he's got some pretty crazy eyes, and that's what you need to be a keeper. I'm pretty gutted. He wasn't gonna get any games. Even if Borjan was missing a finger, there's no way he wasn't gonna play all 3 games.
I mean, I see it, but like, I mean, his injury proves like how close we are always to like the next guy having to come up and line.
But I think, I mean, you're gonna tell me I'm wrong, and maybe you'll prove I am wrong. But yeah. I don't think there's a big drop off between St. Clair and Crepeau.
No, I agree there. I think St. Clair's had the better season.
And I think Pantemis, even though he hasn't had a lot of games I haven't seen him play a lot since the Olympic qualifiers, and I think he had maybe half of a game somewhere for Canada. Maybe it was against Aruba. Did he play?
No, he's actually never
played. So, but I think in that small window sample size alone, I think Pantemis is more than adequate number 3. in the sense that he's just a great presence to have around. You saw the way he interacted with players and stick up for him. So he's a big dude. I think he's got a lot to offer. So I think he's a pretty serviceable number 3. So if the worst we can do is St. Clair and Pantemis, I still think we're about as good as we were with Crépeau and St. Clair.
I'm a bit lower on Pantemis.
Bit lower on I understand.
He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy.
He's nowhere near. If we had Crépeau and St. Clair as our 2 backups, yeah, you're right. He doesn't scratch Crépeau or St. Clair in terms of quality. But I still think if you're already in a situation where you're worried about your 3rd keeper,
yeah,
you're already in a bad spot. So let's just make sure our backup is good, because we do have a solid backup. Regardless, we had a solid 2-3 punch with Crépeau and St. Clair. That's been split in half, unfortunately. But when you go into a World Cup, you can't be worrying about your 3rd keeper.
No, I agree. We've dedicated way too much time to it. I guess, the last injury we had was the one that's like really heartbreaking to me is Scott Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's kind of like my favorite player that's not Eustachio.
Kennedy and Wotherspoon were those 2 guys who I wish they played. They did play it quite a bit, but I wish both those guys. I know injury and just like who you have available. I wish those are the 2 guys I wish that got way more time on the field. Those guys stick out to me whenever I look back at sort of highlights or things of that. Oh yeah, I forgot Wotherspoon played this game. Oh yeah, I forgot Kennedy was like pretty great in these games against Haiti and things like that. So I almost forget about them. I wish those guys got more time on the field, but I'm pretty gutted for Kennedy. I would hope he would make the roster at least.
I think he's like, if we're going on levels of inspiration, he's the most inspiring story, I think, in this squad. Just the way he moved to Germany without, any real base professionally, and he just worked his way up to like a full-time job in Bundesliga. Like, it's pretty incredible how he just bet on himself and won.
Not to look at it with rose-colored glasses too much or to try and be optimistic, but I think the fact that everyone has the same sort of attitude as you're having and I have about him missing from this roster means that he has a guaranteed spot moving forward, I guess. So Nations League, Gold Cup, you hope.
I kind of knew it was going to happen, though.
But, you hope he becomes a regular going forward, and I think if you had told someone a couple of years ago a player of his quality would be on this team, maybe not for the World Cup, but like going forward, you'd be like, okay, great. Like it's good to know we have these players who are like either injured or maybe just not quite good enough right now, but they're going to make an impact in future competitions. Because listen, not to get too heavy here with our big bold statements here, but if we score a goal, we should be happy in the World Cup. So we're not walking away with any trophies out of this competition. So the fact that we're building on a foundation for future World Cups, future competitions, winning more trophies, whether it be Gold Cup, Nations League, various. So we get invited. I think there's a rumor at one point that Canada was going to get invited down to the, god damn it, the South American competition, Copa. Canada was going to get invited to Copa at one point. Let's look. Not that we should never look for the World Cup, but this is a stepping stone. People were happy if we were going to maybe qualify, if we were going to get a playoff game going to this World Cup. Guys like Kennedy not being on this roster is gut wrenching. There's so many guys I wish we could play in this World Cup. So many guys like Crépeau, but this is a building block. This is huge. This is just being there is huge.
Yeah, I guess with Kennedy, I sort of thought it was going to happen for months. If you think Davies is made out of glass, like Kennedy is just something else. He has a very strange build for a center back, and he gets injured like every other game. It just happens with him. But yeah, I think I might be more gutted than he is. Like
Yeah.
I hope he's there in 2026 is all I'm gonna say. Another thing I wanted to do, I sort of wanted to look like, I feel like there's a pretty good idea of at least 21 or 22 players, what they're gonna look like on the squad. I think there's like decent uncertainty still around like the fringes of the 26. Would you be interested in just going like player by player and
let's do it.
Yeah. So I guess I have this from like what I think is most likely to least likely, but I think I'm just gonna go like random order. So I'll start with like Derek Cornelius. What do you think his odds are of being on the squad?
God, I'm a boring person because my answer is just sort of like I don't think he's gonna make it, but if he was there, because I think people still have this fear of Canada Soccer's depth at center back. If he was there, I would understand. If he wasn't, also understand, which is such a stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think he deserves to be there. He hasn't done anything as of recently. He was great in that Olympic qualifier. I think every now and then when he does play, you see why he gets called up, but he hasn't proven anything. So if he's not there, totally understand a bit. But if they're like, no, we need to add some. If he took Henry's spot, I would be okay. I'd get it. But yeah, so I don't think he should make it. I don't think he should make it.
And then I think he's actually probably gonna be there. That's what I think.
Okay.
With Kendi out, we don't really have a lot of space. We don't have a lot of options on the left. Herdman made the point of calling him into some camps, even when he didn't see the field single minute. And yeah, like he's been good in Greece for a mid-table team. He did get some time. I think it was the away to the Jamaica. And I think one other game he started when Kendi was away.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not guaranteed. If Henry is there and if Waterman is there, it might be difficult just by virtue of we already have so many center backs. But I think Herdman's gonna see that like we just don't have a lot of options on the left side, and I think he's gonna be there, maybe not seeing a single minute, much like in World Cup qualification. Second one I want to do is Liam Miller.
He'll be there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Just hasn't been as good this year with Basel, but that whole team just been
He's
terrible.
shown some pretty great flashes of skill. He's very serviceable. I think he has a lot to offer. He hasn't really proven himself too much, which is a weird thing to say considering I just said he'll be on the roster, but I still think he has a lot to offer. I think he's would be a guaranteed on the team. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got David Wotherspoon.
I just mentioned him before. I wish he got more time in the qualifiers, and I think he did get a fair amount of chance, especially early on in the qualification process. Will he make the team? No, I don't think he'll be on the team.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 on him. I would bring him. I think if Oso isn't fit, he's kind of the best Oso light we have.
Mm-hmm.
He's also good depth on the left wing, which we don't really have.
Yeah.
So I would bring him, but I think the midfield's already pretty crowded, so I think it's 50-50. Theo Corbiano.
I want him there, so I'm gonna say yes. I think he'll make it.
Yeah. For me, he's like the final guy.
Yeah. Number 26. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think he'd get very little time behind Buchanan and Hoylett probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also 50-50 on probability of him being there. Got Charles Brim.
No, he won't be on the team. I hope not.
I've gone on him a little since shit talking him every episode. But he's done really well for what it's worth with Eindhoven in the Dutch second tier. But I don't think it's enough. I'm sorry. That level just isn't high enough where I care that much how many goals you're scoring. In the same way I wouldn't care much about like Tyler Pasher or something when he was in the USL or whoever the leading scorer in the CPL was this year. Like I just he did get bought by a top tier team in Holland, and he got immediately loaned back to the second tier. So I don't think that's a great sign. Some people think he only did that so he could have time before the World Cup.
Yeah.
I don't want him seeing the field in the World Cup. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
About Raheem Edwards.
It'd be great if he did, but no, he's not. He's not going to make the 26-man roster. I would love to see Raheem Edwards. I think he's kind of like oh man, who do they call up during the Gold Cup on an emergency basis after Akinola's injury?
think it was Gutierrez.
No,
Sorry, Akinola. Oh, it was
uh,
Tesho Akinelli.
Him and Raheem Edwards, I feel have a bit of like I don't want to say a redemption story with Team Canada, but they're kind of guys who when you played like FIFA like 15 and you were playing as Canada, they were like kind of shoe-ins on the team. They were like, yeah, these are our guys. Like these are the players who we have who are going to score goals. And I still think they both have a lot to offer to Canada, whether it's Nations League or Gold Cup, or in like just like Tisho did when he came in the Gold Cup. Like he was like, wow, this guy's actually pretty good, and he's proven in the MLS. Like, oh, he's putting away some goals. Like, okay, like he's got. I think both
I
those
kind of
guys.
maybe would have taken him over Akinola at this camp.
Both these guys have a lot to offer. I just don't think right now they're going to be. So if we're talking specifically World Cup, no, he's not going to be there. But I would love to see more of him.
I think he did get called to Nations League. He didn't, not Nations League for Curaçao and Honduras, but he didn't appear at all.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument that we don't really have any backup for Adekugbe, like at all, unless we're going to put Davies there, which we shouldn't, obviously. And I can kind of see like maybe we should have a backup left back instead of like a, I don't know, seventh midfielder or like a fourth striker. But no, he hasn't been good enough. I've read what LA Galaxy fans have to say about him, and he has flashes of attacking talent, but his defense scares me a lot. I don't think almost zero chance he's going to be there. Do you want to keep doing that?
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going until I say no more.
All right, we've got Ike Ugbo.
He'll be there. I don't really want him there, but I think we gotta still give him a chance. As much as he hasn't really proven anything. He hasn't shown why people were excited to have him. I think there is moments where it's like I get it, but he hasn't done much, if anything. But he'll be on the team.
Yeah, I think people gave him way too much leeway at the beginning. But now he's made 8 appearances and he hasn't scored. He hasn't come particularly close to scoring. People wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially with Laren struggling for playing time. But I'm not going to give it to him.
No.
I think he'll be there, but I think like he's behind Cavallini and Laren now.
He will have his moment. He will have a moment where he proves why he's on this team. But yeah, other than just like he's on the roster, I don't really care about him.
Yeah. And then we've got maybe 2 more.
Yeah.
We can go to Joel Waterman.
I'd love to see him there. I wouldn't be just like Cornelius. I would both decisions wouldn't surprise me. It's a really boring answer, but if he made the team, I'm like, yeah, great. We need more depth at center back. We need more guys who hopefully won't get pushed around depending on our opponent. But if he's not there, I'm not going to lose any sleep. Joel Waterman's a great story, and I think he's a lot to offer in future competitions. I think he's got a great future with Canada, MLS, and beyond. A good friend of mine did a piece on him last year, did a video piece on him. Seems like a great guy, local product. But no, I could care less if he's on or off the roster.
I think he should be there.
Hey, look at that. Okay.
He should be ahead of Henry. Henry hasn't played.
The Don L. Henry. Daniil, sorry, Henry. The Daniil Henry slander is what minute? We're at minute 56, and the Daniil Henry slander comes in.
It's not original anywhere else, but I guess it's original on this show. Waterman has been an important piece on a Montreal team that did really well, and like Henry was behind like Lucas McNaughton for most of the year.
He definitely he definitely has dipped in quality on the club side. I think even when he was in Korea, he was still contributing and playing regularly. Now that he's back in the MLS,
it wouldn't be funny because I wouldn't even mention McNaughton. It wouldn't be funny if he's on the squad. No, I'm not even gonna.
Those CPLers on Reddit would just break their arms, jerking themselves off, wouldn't they? They would just be all over that if fucking McNaughton made the team.
He's not in CPL anymore, so it doesn't count.
In their eyes, it does. Sorry, Waterman. If he's on the team, great. If he's not, who cares?
I think he should be, and I think it's like 40-60.
Okay.
That
Herdman's
gonna think to himself like, is Daniil Henry do I really want Daniil Henry being my next option up if Vittoria gets injured?
Yes.
Okay.
Henry, just based on personality alone, will get the start.
All right. And then last,
Certainly not
do I
least.
say? I probably is. Luca Kolyosho. He's
He hasn't even played a
the
damn
S.
game yet.
Yeah, but people want him because we need those precious dual nationals, James.
Do I want? Do I? I gotta see. I got the page open for the whole roster right now. Do I even know who this player is? Because you're much more knowledgeable when it comes to stuff than I am.
He's gotten like 10 minutes for Espanyol in the La Liga. Mostly plays for their B team.
It's too bad they didn't cap him at all, eh?
Yeah, I don't think he was willing to though. I think he was willing to come to camp. He wasn't willing to be
Yeah, he
capitalized.
came during that shit show in the June window.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
Also, he has like the least connection to Canada out of anyone.
no, I don't.
But he basically, from what I understand, he just likes Alfonso Davies. He's his favorite player, so he's happy to come.
I think if no, he's not gonna make the World Cup roster at all. Um, if he did, we're in a bad spot. But if he should be given a chance if he wants it in the future. Start him just for the sake of it. Start him against Honduras at home in March. That's all. That's all I have to say about him because I don't think he. I don't know. People seem to be high on these dual nationals, and maybe for you guys know a lot more than I do, so I could be wrong. But um,
I'm full. Yeah. Go
he
ahead. Sir.
absolutely has no space on this World Cup roster for any reason, unless the plane goes down over the Andes and we have a live situation. Um, what was that Nepal? Anyway, no, I don't care about him. Oh,
Yeah.
if he's playing Nation League games, great. Cap him. Get more players to convert to Canada. Love it. But nah, whatever.
Just as a side note, I'm so glad to hear that from you, because like, me, I'm glad like the Twitterverse exists just to counter, like the boring, mainstream narrative, whatever that happens to be. It's good that it exists, but it goes too far so much of the time, so that like CPLers are in the World Cup squad, Kolyosho is in the World Cup. Like, I'm happy these people aren't running things too.
I'm happy that these people are idealistic and they're like they see a bigger picture than I think the average fan does. That's great. They see we should add these players. We should have this, but it's not for right now. If we had this roster against Bahrain, add Lucas Colosio or whatever his name is. I said it right. Add him to that roster too. Great. They play. They go on. When do we play after? Not to look too far ahead. When they play March 25th in Curacao, and then March 28th probably in Toronto against Honduras. They're going to win both games. They're going to advance to the next round of Nations Leagues. Put that roster and anyone else we didn't talk about against those two teams. Great. Like we have enough to field an A and a B squad essentially in some competitions. Yeah. Why can't we be happy with that? Why does every dual national have to get called up and just start right away? I don't understand. I'm on your side. It's such a weird thing to look at, but I get the excitement because a lot of fans, even older or younger than us, have put up with a lot more despair, heartbreak. I can only reference Haiti 2019 as my only heartbreak. There's people who can list a whole page of heartbreaks for Canada. So I get it to be excited and to want all this stuff, but relax. Everyone needs to relax.
We have like 3 minutes for me to go on
Just go on your 3 minute. Do it. I feel it.
Great. So I guess I don't know if we're gonna get another show before the World Cup.
Yeah, we'll do one more. Sure, why not?
All right. Well, I just wanted to share some reasons I think we should be optimistic.
Yes, please,
That,
please.
It's just nice.
Balance it out.
One is just Alfonso Davies is in really good form, injured or not. He's just we say it a lot, but he's really good, guys.
He's one of the best players in the world, and he will prove why. I'm afraid he'll do what he's done before is that he'll try and do everything himself. He'll try and just walk around. He's on the biggest stage in the world, and everyone's watching him, and rightfully so. He'll do everything himself, and people get mad at him. But then he'll do everything himself, and he's going to either score a goal or set up a goal beautifully, and he's going to show. We should be excited because we have one of the best players in the world for the next 10 years on our team.
And yeah, I hope that part of me hopes that it's really not just hero ball what he's doing, because that always feels simplistic to me when someone says like he was trying to hero ball it, he only cares about himself. Like I hope it's not that. And I feel like in the World Cup we're gonna see a return to what he was doing in his early days, where he was very good at knowing how he could just elevate everyone else on the team. And when he's doing that, like Davies and just Canada are so wonderful to watch. Um, Jonathan David, I he's like I think he's like third in League One right now in scoring. Like as sad as Laren's year has been, as much as we've thrown Cavalier under the bus, like we have a striker who's really scoring, and
we have a world class striker.
yeah, and I'd really like if just for a month we could stop linking him to every club in the world, and just
No, he's
we
playing
should
for
just
Man United, don't you know?
yeah, he's playing for everyone
Yeah,
at once.
yeah.
It's great. Um, but like his game has evolved to the point this year where he can reliably play as a lone striker, and like that's huge. Um, I'm really excited to see what he can do with the World Cup, and um, like it's hard to say this because we're so because like we're always watching them, but like other people in the world are going to realize who Jonathan David is, and that just like excites me as a fan.
There's a lot of people outside of Canada who are going to root for maybe not the,
Exactly.
who aren't going to maybe root for Canada themselves. They're going to root for our star players, and there's going to be a lot of people who don't realize how good of a maybe not a team, but great personalities this team has and skill. People are not gonna they're gonna see us. Oh yeah, Canada, and they're gonna see us play in the World Cup, and they're like, oh yeah, like I like these guys, and I think that's something to be excited about.
And just to cap off who our three best players
Oh
are.
yeah, who is it? Crepeau? No, he's out. Borjan. Who could
So
it
Saint
be?
Ricket.
Tosa.
Um,
Hey, for you. I'm gonna get close to you. Keep your Ricketts slander out of your goddamn mouth. I will not stand for any Tosa and Ricketts slander on this show. Anyway, go on.
uh, yeah. In my sports journalism class this year, I'm writing like a 1,000 word article about
Tosa and Ricketts.
how Stefan Eustáquio has transformed
The
his
show is
game
over. The show is over. It had a great
has
run.
transformed his game at FC
We lasted
Porto.
over a year, everybody. Yeah, go on. Let's talk. I can't. I can only clown you so hard. Eustáquio is probably in the form of his career right now at Porto. He's burying
It's
goals
crazy.
like
It's
crazy.
so crazy. Um, okay, the thing I want to emphasize with him is like I've always, if it's not clear, I've always loved Eustáquio. It's always been clear that he has like a sense about it that he just reads the game usually better than anyone else on the field. Sometimes his physical attributes might not be the best, but he always makes up for that just by reading the game so well, by always knowing where to be, by making terrific runs. That was sometimes hard to see on Passos, I'll admit, where like he was very much relegated to being like the heartbeat of the team, but in front of the back line. He didn't get to do very much fun stuff at Passos. But then he scored that goal against Porto, and that's what was ultimately the catalyst for his move this year. And since then, paired with Matthews Uribe, sorry, I should know how to say that. He has just turned into like an eight. Like he's just completely changed the way he plays. Um, Now that he has someone to hold for him, like he's the one making runs forward. He's the one making like these perfectly timed last second runs into the box to score a goal from the very edge. Um, and he's doing this all while still like staying true to what he used to be. He's still like winning balls all over the field, but he's doing that while leading the league in like assists. And like I don't know, it just feels so nice that I followed this guy
Yeah.
from where he was to where he is now. And he said it himself that he never wants to be firmly into this category, that category. But like every player kind of says that. He's just proven that he's legitimately one of the most versatile midfielders I've ever seen.
I think the hype is absolutely, it has been real and is real for Eustáquio right now. And I think that moment you're describing of you've been following him for so long and you're kind of getting, not I wouldn't say validation, but you're getting like there. I knew there was a reason why and why Canada should get this guy. It's sort of how I felt, not to shock to anyone, but when Alphonso Davies scored those two goals against French Guiana, I remember watching him play making his debut. I remember seeing like, and I think everyone knew with him, but not how good he was. And then all of a sudden, he's just like gets in the scene and scores two goals against French Guiana in the Gold Cup. Eustáquio deserves that level of hype right now in terms of like, oh, we have a bona fide star on our hands,
Yeah.
who wants to play on Canada, who wants to be here, who maybe at moments, as someone who watches soccer too much, you're like, oh, he gets a little too frustrated sometimes, or he does this, he does that. It's a little, but he's a bona fide star on a bona fide star of a team. Like Porto is a worldwide team, I think.
They're in the final 16 of Champions League.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, we should, the three players you mentioned and others reasons, we should get excited. And Eustáquio, as much as I clown you for it, you're crushed from. Listen, I got crushes on players too. I used to love like third line grinders in the Montreal Canadiens. Steve Bejean was my favorite player for the longest time. It makes, I get it, and he is a reason to be excited. And I think a lot of people, just like with Davies and David, who don't know him, are like, yep, he's gonna prove why he's a world class player. He's gonna get his moment, whether it's we're losing 4-0 to Belgium and he scores a great free kick or something like that, or he gets a great assist. He's gonna prove why he's in this form right now, and I'm excited to see that. And everyone should be.
And just to add on to that, like Buchanan is playing in Champions League. Guys like
Larin started today. You mentioned Larin starting today.
Yeah, Kyle Larin starting for the first time in like months. Steven Vittoria has been very solid at his new team in Portugal. I remember he won man of the match against Sporting. He scored a crazy header from like outside of the box somehow. And then you've got our entire Montreal contingent with very good chemistry. Like, just to summarize, like our best three players are better than they ever have been, and maybe our supporting cast isn't quite as good as it was in February. Like Larin isn't banging goals in every week, but I think we're going into the World Cup. Like everyone's focusing on fitness issues, but there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic.
Again, like it's I can't say this so many times. Just being there is massive. I don't know how else to say it. Just being there is huge for the team, the players, and the program, the country. And everything on top of that's going to be.
But also score a goal.
Please, just start with scoring a goal. Please just score. I don't care. Again, if we're down 3-0, we don't against Morocco. We don't have a hope of making it through. And then all of a sudden, Hutchinson goes up for a header. It misses it, falls down, but his back heel clips it by accident, and it just sort of rolls into the back of the net somehow, and we get a goal, and then the 90th whistle goes, and it's over. But we lost 3-1, and we scored a goal. That I would be so happy for that moment. We went through 2 weeks of nothing to be happy about because we didn't win a game, but we got a goal for the first time ever at the World Cup. Mission accomplished. I'll go out. I already bought some merch already from Adidas. They got some great merch through Adidas. This isn't a plug for them, but I've just got some merch already. I'd go out and buy more because I'm excited for Nations League. I'm excited for 2026. I'm excited for Gold Cup next summer. All these things. Just getting a goal would ignite a bigger fire under me that's already there.
So to summarize, score a goal, have fun. Just be the smiley, happy team we've been. Be that brotherhood we love so much.
Brothers.
And James, say the thing. Say the thing.
Oh, say the line, Bart. Yeah. Kieran, thanks for having me as a guest on my own show. And thanks. You know what? We will do one more show before the World Cup. We'll talk back and forth about when that's going to be. Depending on these next two friendlies go, we might have a lot or a little to talk about. Depending on how the roster announcement goes.
The wall.
Yeah. We'll do this again soon, my friend.
All right.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Feel the crackling. Steam escaping from your taste buds. Burning and yearning in anticipation of hard work paying off. A craft earned and perfected. Hands that give glimpses of guarded family secrets. Taste the air. You dance with the flames. A moth drawn to the lights. The sights attack your eyes like a morning sun, rising, lifting. Your soul has awakened.